Bitcoin hasn't been classified technically as property, but the courts have treated it as if it is an alienable thing. The way Bitcoin is like property is that it has a way of being controlled and isolated into a single person's hand. The way you control Bitcoin is something called a private key. And this private key is just a series of numbers and letters. But if you know what those numbers and letters are, you have the ability to control those Bitcoins. You have the ability to send those Bitcoins to someone else. And so whoever owns the private key, whoever has possession of the private key, has possession of the Bitcoins. And so a court can say, well, we have this safety deposit box and it's filled with this private key, so we have the ability to control this Bitcoin, and we can attach it to litigation, or we can do all sorts of things with it. That is part of the usual remedies and the usual procedures of civil litigation in this country. There hasn't been many cases involving Bitcoin. A lot of them have been criminal actions involving money laundering or involving Ponzi schemes. One of the things about Bitcoin is that because it's not completely anonymous, you're able to tie a series of numbers and letters to each transaction, and so it makes it very easy for the FBI to track it, much easier than cash. They're able to isolate and take ownership over that Bitcoin. It's essentially treated as a tangible, just like gold or just like apples, for instance. If the Bitcoin is in a particular jurisdiction, a court can exercise all kinds of control over it, just like it can exercise control over a house. So courts have classified Bitcoin as money, but money in the same way that gold is money. The difference between tangible and intangible property is that a tangible thing has value on its own and doesn't need any third-party validation to give it value. So for instance, a gold bar, whoever is holding that gold bar is worth something. Now, compare that with shares of a company. If I have a contract that says Max owns 50% of XYZ Corporation, and somehow someone else gets their hand on that piece of paper, that piece of paper doesn't give them the ownership to 50% of the company. The ownership is an intangible thing. It's something that I have by virtue of being me, and by virtue of a court and a judicial system and a financial system giving me that right. Someone could say that Bitcoin is intangible property and could be dealt with by courts in the same way we deal with shares of a company, for instance. But the difficulty is, a court can say, you no longer own these shares of the company. You no longer have that, and you can no longer sell it to other people. With Bitcoin, a person actually has those Bitcoin because it acts very much like gold. You can apply many of the same rules. And so one of the ideas is that you don't need a complex new system of regulations or a complex new law to be able to govern Bitcoin. You can go with the same old property rules and the same old procedure rules that govern other forms of property. Many, like Professor Lessig, want to create a new jurisprudence for the internet. Many, like Judge Easterbrook, adopt an approach that says new innovation doesn't necessitate new legal regimes, and that the old system of common law, the old system of rules that we have governing property are perfectly capable of dealing with new innovations.